Hey there folks, Wrel here. Today we dropped the latest version of Distal, a high fantasy, class-heavy, D20-based tabletop role-playing system currently in alpha development. Faith and Folly is Alpha Packet 3, and that is available right now for free at playdisrpg.com. In Alpha Packet 3, we go so far as to overhaul how attribute checks work in the game. So instead of a singular attribute like strength or dexterity or intelligence to solve for a hostile effect or a negative condition, you instead have two ways to solve for it. And those are combined into different check types, basically. You might avoid a trap. You might escape a restraint. You might withstand a blast. You might curtail a poison. One of the goals is to allow for more build diversity by allowing your secondary stats to have more of an impact on how your character plays. The other is that we allow you to imply more implicit narrative to what happens when you're checking against a spell or ability. In Faith and Folly, we've also totally overhauled how willpower works, which was also missing from the original two alpha packets, just the rules for willpower. It was kind of implied in a few different places, but there was a whole section that was missing. So, oh well, we've changed it anyway. How willpower worked previously was that it was kind of like a shield bar with hard numbers, and they acted as temporary health for the majority of the time. You'd roll it at the start of combat to see how much you got, which is usually not very much. And then you could also sacrifice your entire willpower to increase your chance to hit. It was really difficult to keep track of. We'd often forget about it. The changes that I'll talk about here in a moment help streamline the whole process and just make it more fun to use. Each class now has a pool of willpower die, and that pool maximum size is equal to your party size. You gain 1 willpower at the start of combat, and the size of the die, be it a d6 or a d8 or a d10, depends on your class. That last part was always the case. You can expend a willpower die alongside an attack roll to add the results to that attack to make sure you hit, or you can use it to add to an attribute check. So you roll up the results and then help you avoid the effect of an ability and that sort of thing. Or you can use it with certain class abilities and class special effects. Speaking of which, the implications of changing the willpower system also adjust how a lot of the classes operate. So many of them received adjustments, and some that were more heavily tied to willpower, for example, the Ember Gut, got totally revised. So did the Strategist, but kind of for different reasons. So you'll see those changes in this alpha update. Alongside the changes to classes, you'll also see 2 new ones. We have the Justicar and the Oracle. The Justicar is a paladin-like arbitrator of justice, or maybe, somebody's truth, some deific truth, perhaps. But they're also meant to be a little bit more grounded instead of the stereotypical paladin archetype. Instead, they focus a lot on the scales of justice and right and wrong. The Oracle class is kind of a weaver of fate, where they tug on ethereal strands and help manipulate destiny. This can act as a benefit to your allies or a detriment to your enemies, as you make life just a little bit better or a little bit worse. And since we just released 2 new classes that are heavily tied to religion or worship, we've also released Pantheons, which will tell you a little bit more about the individual lineages, kind of in the context of the traditions that they've developed through the gods that they've worshipped, and that sort of thing. I think if you're playing the game currently, a lot of the religions will have spread or mixed or become more or less popular. So it's not unusual for one character to follow the religions of another. There's also so much else in this packet as it relates to just verbiage changes to make things cleaner, make more sense. We changed monsters to kind of move them into 4th edition style roles. We changed a lot of the spells and abilities throughout all the classes, like we mentioned, but also helped simplify some of the rules for swimming, falling, sinking, and that sort of thing. With that out of the way, let's talk about the actual play that's coming up. So 2 p.m. tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time, you'll be seeing the first episode, a session 0, where I and a few others that I know in real life will be playing through Distal. We'll be rolling up characters in preparation for a 3-episode mini campaign, mini arc, mini story, something like that we'll be doing over the next few weeks. Instead of the typical Friday live stream, that's what will be taking its place, and I'll make sure to put it up on the premiere. The goal of that actual play is really to help other people get an understanding of what Distal is, kind of help people become more comfortable with the process of playing the game. And my panel will be people who are avid Dungeons & Dragons players and have helped with the playtesting of Distal in the past. It's a pretty good crew. We talk a lot of shop just about alpha development of the game and some of the systems and that sort of thing. So you're going to see kind of the game change in real time. I'm already excited to work on the next packet based on some of the feedback that I had gotten from that episode. That was kind of like triggering some stuff that I had been thinking about, kind of had in the back of my mind. So these sorts of actual plays, I would expect them to not be traditional in that it's actors playing a role or it's people just playing a game, but this is alpha development, and feedback is a constant cycle, and the more of it that I can get, the better we'll be able to create a wonderful product. Sounded weird. So let's talk a little bit about the future. I think Distal is getting closer and closer to defining its unique selling points. When I talk to people about the background system, when I talk to people about the session zero building an organization style system, these are tools that help people create better stories, not only for their characters, but also for the world. So Distal is very much about creating a collaborative story and gives you tools and systems to do that. In the next alpha packet, I'm going to be kind of moving some of the elements around. Currently, it's lineage, class, background, stuff and things. But really, the backgrounds have become some of the most important parts of the character creation process. So you'll be choosing a lineage, and then you'll be moving into your background creation right at the start, because the tangible elements that you get from your background and also the experiences that you see that your character has had also help inform your class decisions. And that's one of the pieces of feedback that helped, or that was solidified during that playtest that you'll see tomorrow. One of the other aspects of the game that I'm going to try to tackle again is the encounter design. So I feel like what we have is fine. It works. It's traditional. It makes a lot of sense for somebody who has played Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or what have you. Monsters have stats, they have attacks, they have armor and whatever else. But when it comes to actually building out an encounter, I would love to create tools to make your life easier. And I don't even know that you necessarily need for a combat encounter to be so symmetrical as it relates to players. You could probably make something that's a little bit more abstract, but still just as fun. And those are concepts that I'm going to be exploring, hopefully, in the next packet. We'll see how it turns out. It might just fall on its face, and then I might kind of encounter a design flaw that I can't really account for and then pull it back. But that's a goal. One more thing that we'll be adding to the next update is the Fury lineage. Fury are super cool. I talked about them in 2 devlogs ago, and they are kind of descendant from harpies. They're kind of modern day harpies. They are very flighty, so to speak, and they also have this language that they etch on objects and surfaces that tell other harpy what to be aware of when they enter a new town, because they're mostly isolated creatures where they are very skittish, and for good reasons, but you'll read more about that later. I think that's about it. Pretty good amount of content coming up, and there's other stuff that I want to talk about, but we'll see how it goes. Thanks very much, folks. Wrel signing off.